Hallelujah. 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 I came today. I came today. I came today. I came today. I came today to talk to those of you who know that Satan can't stand you. And not only do you know that the devil can't stand you, but you're okay with it. You kind of like the fact that you're on the enemy's hit list, because it proves to you that you are in the flow of what God has purposed for your life. I came to make an announcement today that you are not just in your season, but that you are a season. That the reason the enemy has tried to fight you and discourage you, derail you, sidetrack you, and subvert all that God is trying to do in your life is because he understands that if you ever reach the place that God has already preordained you to reach, that you will literally be a major L or loss in the life of the devil himself. I came to preach to somebody today. I came to talk to somebody who is no longer content with just taking the devil's stuff. I came to talk to somebody who says, I've taken enough, and now I'm ready to react in the way that God would have me to react. I came to talk to overcomers. I came to talk to those who are not just conquerors, but more than conquerors. I didn't come to preach to the weak today. I came to preach to the strong. I came to preach to those who know you're strong by virtue of the fact that you've survived everything. Everything that you've experienced thus far, you've survived it. I came to talk to winners. I came to talk to success stories. I came to connect the dots of destiny for some of you who are further along than you really thought you were. I came to let you know that everything the enemy has said about you is a lie, and that you need to believe the reverse. If he says you're a loser, that means you're a winner. If he said you'll never make it, that means that you're almost there. Oh, who am I talking to today? And so I want to call your attention, if I can, to the book of Romans chapter number 8. Romans chapter 8 is really our subtext, or it is our supporting text. And then I want to take you back to the book of Genesis chapter 41. And if it seems like I'm jumping around in the book of Genesis, the Lord told me, he said, I need for you now in this season to deal more with themes than chronology. In other words, he says the order of things is not as important as the theme of things. He said, if you can get the people to understand themes, if you can understand people to look at their lives within the context of what I'm doing in their lives, everything else will fall into order. And so if you can understand the theme of where you are right now, this whole thing of God developing you and why he's developing you, and for what purpose he's developing you and where you will be when he finishes developing you, then you can understand that no matter what goes on around you, you still the head, not the tail. You're above only and not beneath. You can have it going on like Joseph in a pit, in Potiphar's house, and in prison. You still got it going on. You got it going on with money in your pocket, and you got it going on when you're broke. You got it going on when you got friends, and you got it going on when ain't nobody in your corner. You got it going on when everybody likes you, and you got it going on when everybody can't stand you. Somebody touch your neighbor and say, I got it going on. I really don't mean to be braggadocious today. I'm not trying to, toot my own horn, but if you know it, you ought to just say it. You got to touch them and say, you got it going on. You are further along than the enemy wants you to realize. God have mercy. If he could have killed you last year, he would have. Oh God. He's been waiting for you to go crazy. And every morning you wake up clothed and in your right mind, you disappoint the enemy. Am I talking to anybody? Oh! So I came today just to talk to those of you who are in that category. Romans chapter number 8. Let me read this in your hearing. I'm going to, if you'll just stand with me for a minute, and then we're going to move. And I'm not going to preach. I came mic'd up like this today because I didn't want to holler. I don't want to tune up. LJ, CJ, Thomas, and our new drummer, sir, y'all got the day off. I won't be doing. Don't leave though, because the word just might help y'all too. But I don't plan on hollering today. I said I don't plan on hollering today. Romans chapter 8. Anybody who knows me knows that this is one of my favorite passages of Scripture. I want to read just beginning at verse number 18 in your hearing, and then we'll move on a little further. It says, "For I consider the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Tell somebody beside you, better is coming. I don't care what you're going through now, better is coming. As a matter of fact, whatever you're going through is happening because better is on its way. The bitterness of your experience is nothing more than the announcement of the better that's on its way. Verse 19 says, "For the earnest expectation of creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it in hope, because the creation itself also will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into glorious liberty of the children of God." And so what he's saying is that everything around you is going to get better as soon as you get better. Everything around you and everybody around you is waiting for you to get better. Somebody ought to shout better. Yeah. Better. Now, Genesis chapter number 41, and I'm not going to be before you long. Y'all pray my strength. Genesis chapter number 41. And I want to begin reading, if I can, at verse number 37. And you can be seated when I finish that. Verse 37, Genesis 41, verse 37 says, "So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, 'Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?' Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'Inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you.' And Pharaoh said to Joseph, 'See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt.'" When we first meet Joseph, Joseph is a scrawny 17-year-old boy. He's a tattletale. He's his daddy's favorite. He's his daddy's pet. He is obnoxious. He is indiscreet. He's gifted, but he has no character. He's all the things that many of us want to be, and he's all the things that many of us are. Great gifts, but immature. And so we meet him in chapter 41, and we find out that now he is the top dog in Egypt. I'm trying to figure out, how do you go from being an immature 17-year-old to being trusted to be the major voice in the kingdom of God? Because you are a major voice. Touch your neighbor, say, you are a major voice. You are a major voice. All those dreams that God showed you of greatness, God wasn't playing with you. You didn't eat a bad meal and, have a nightmare. God was showing you what he had purpose for your life. I want to suggest to you that he is in a place of spiritual evolution. Spiritual evolution. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, the spiritual evolution theory. Or better yet, I'm changing. Touch your neighbor and say, I'm changing. Tell somebody else, say, I'm changing. Now touch yourself and say, self, embrace the change. You may be seated in the presence of God. Good morning. One of my favorite songs of all time, you won't find it in a hymnal. Neither will you hear it sung on Sunday morning, so please forgive the preacher for liking songs that cannot be sung or should not or have not been sung on Sunday morning. It's a song by a man by the name of George Benson. And the song is entitled, Everything Must Change. The song says, everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone must change. Nothing and no one stays the same. There are not many things in life that you can be sure of, except the rain comes from the clouds. The sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds, they do fly. Mark, the truth of the matter is that everything changes. Everybody changes. And the change that God institutes and the change that God implements is a change for the better. Somebody ought to shout, a change for the better. That's what God wants you to do when you change. God doesn't want you to go backwards. He wants you to go forward. He wants you to be a better you than you were last year. A better you than you were 5 years ago. A better you than you were 10 years ago. And the change ought to be embraced. I love this about life. I love this about the course of life. That no matter who you are, things will change. If you keep on living, my daddy would say, son, you're going to get old. And then he had another saying, if you keep living, son, you're going to die. I understand that change is inevitable, that change is going to happen. Medical science has not advanced that far that they can stop change. You can get enough Botox in your face to make it swell to 3 times its size. You can dye your hair as many colors as you will. You can get cut and snipped. You can get implants in your mouth, in your chest, and in your rear end. The truth of the matter is it never stops change. Change then ought to be embraced. Since you cannot stop the change, embrace the change. Tell your neighbor, embrace it, embrace it. I have friends who have not embraced the change. I was with a friend of mine from college not too long ago, Elder Colbert, and he commented on the gray in my beard. And I commented on the gray that he didn't have in his. And the truth of the matter is, I understood that, the gray was here and I can't hide it. So, I may as well embrace it. I think it looks pretty good on me, And the truth of the matter. Thank you for the applause, but had you not agreed, I would have thought it looked good anyway. But I said to him, I almost called his name Wilburn. I almost called his name. I said to him, I noticed that you don't have gray. He said, well, Grecian formula works miracles. So the problem with that is you have to keep applying it in order to maintain the look. I would rather be the authentic me that I am evolving into. I have no problem with those who want to get additions, whether you buy it at a store that is run by some people who sell hair and you can get a receipt for. I have no problem. If that's what you want to do, do you. But as for me, I'm embracing the change. I'm embracing the change. You ought to embrace the change. God has implemented and instituted this change. And here's what I found out. You just need to take care of the you that you are. You can be healthy with gray hair. You can be healthy at 50 years old. You can still take care of this body. You ain't got to get nothing nipped, tucked, or cut, or snipped. Just be the best you that you can be. Change happens. Tell your neighbor, change happens. Change happens, and you must learn not only, my brothers and sisters, to embrace the change, but you must learn to do three things with change. The first thing you must do is measure the change. Somebody say measure the change. In other words, when I tell you to measure the change, it means look at the change that is happening in your life. Ask yourself whether I'm changing for the better. Ask yourself, am I striving? Am I advancing? Am I moving forward? Measure the change. And once you measure the change, then you have to move to the next level. After I measure it and see where I'm going, how I'm advancing, if I am improving. After I manage it, after I measure it, I must manage the change. In other words, where I am, I must learn how to manage it. There is nothing worse than being in a place that you don't know how to manage. 50 is good. I just found it out, and now I'm just learning how to measure 50. I'm just learning now that in order to manage it, I can't stay out all night long. In order to manage it, I got to go to bed early so I can get up early. I learned how to manage it. Ain't no need of me trying to go out and compete with no 21 years old. I ain't that fast no more. I don't jump that high no more. I don't do any of that stuff. But you put a 50-year-old up against me and I'll show you what a good 50-year-old looks like. I measure the change. I manage the change, but then I must master the change. Master where I am. Become the best that I can be where I am. Be the best me that cause can't nobody be me. And if I try to be anybody else, I am a cheap copy. And many of us are trying to be a cheap copy of a cheap original. We're trying to pattern our lives after people whose backstories we don't know. You don't know what's going on in the back room of their life. They might just look happy. I wish I had a witness. Oh God, the dining room may look good, but the kitchen may be a mess. I wish I had a few witnesses in here. The next time you go to your favorite restaurant, ask them, can I please go into the kitchen? And what you find out is that a 5-star front room will look like a slaughter pen in the kitchen. There's chaos in the back, so there can be the semblance of order up front. I must learn now how to master the change. I don't want the front room to look good and the kitchen to be messed up. I don't want to look out front to look spotless and inside I'm full of dead man. But I just want to be authentically me. Woo! Somebody ought to shout, manage the change, measure the change, and master the change. I said to you earlier, Troy, that your season is not just coming, that you are a season. That God ordains seasons. And when God ordains seasons, he ordains people to embody seasons. Don't ever miss it. A season is not just winter, spring, summer, and fall. A season is just not on the calendar. I can prove it to you. Mama Long taught me and Prophet McKinstry something about walnuts. Taught us something about walnuts and say walnuts only grow in a particular season. And there's only a particular time and a particular way that you can get walnuts. It says that the walnuts grow on the tree, God got to send a good wind because you can't climb and pick walnuts. Walnuts just have to fall off. And so you know that when those walnuts appear and when that wind blows, that it is walnut season. You are a season. You don't just have a season. God has created you for a particular space, a particular time, for a particular reason. Don't ever miss it. You have never missed your season. Touch your neighbor and say, you've never missed your season. You are a season. You may have mismanaged your season. Ooh, God, can I talk in here? You may have mismanaged some things, but by virtue of the fact that God is merciful, you messed up and you're still here. And if you're still here, it means you still have a chance. Somebody touch your neighbor and say, I am a season. And if I can just figure out who God has created me to be, if I can just measure and manage and master who God has created me to be, victory will be mine at every point in my life. Shout yes, Lord. You are a season. See, we don't just have seasons. We are seasons. Where did I get it from? I got it from Psalm 1 and 3. Y'all know what it says. Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor seateth in the way of the scornful, in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Listen to what it says. He shall be, that man shall be, that woman shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in its season. Oh God, when you're in your season, you bring forth fruit. Touch your neighbor, say, I'm bringing forth fruit. There's going to be proof that I'm in my season. There's going to be proof that I am where God wants me to be. There's going to be proof that I am who God said I am. Somebody ought to shout, I'm in my season. You are in your season. You are a season. And he says, not only will you produce, but he says your leaf will not wither. He speaks of foliage. Foliage is covering. He says you will always have leaves. When you are in your season, you will always be covered. Can I tell you that that's why the enemy don't like you? Because he understands that you are always covered. Oh God, is there anybody besides me who knows you've always been covered? Can I come down here and talk to you for a minute? Tell somebody I've always been covered. Always been covered. In my foolishness, God covered me. Always been covered. I set myself up for failure and God wouldn't let me go down, but so far I've always been covered. Turned left when I should have turned right. Stayed longer than I should have. But I'm still here because I've always been. Always. I told y'all the devil don't like this kind of teaching. You always been covered. Snorted half of Peru. Oh, but always been covered. I wish I had a witness in here. Somebody shout, I've always been covered. Oh, always. I said always. I said always, Mimi. Always. When it looked like I was about to lose my mind, I was still covered. When it looked like I was a fool, I was still covered. Somebody shout always. Always covered. I'm going to produce. I'm always covered. And whatsoever, mama, he says, that I do will prosper. I'm prospering even when it don't look like it. Because the word prosper means to advance, to excel. So even in my failure, I'm prospering. Because when I fell forward. Oh, y'all missed what I said. I failed, but I failed forward. I became better in my failure. I became wiser in my failure. I became stronger in my failure. Oh, somebody ought to say the worst thing the devil could have let me do is fail. Because when I failed, I learned. And when I learned, I got better. Well, I've always been prospering. Ooh. Tell your neighbor you're sitting beside a success story and you didn't even know it. God, I may not have Donald Trump money, but I got Solomon sense. Whoa, God. I may not have a whole lot of wealth, but I got grandmama wit. You might be able to buy stuff I can't buy, but you can't pull nothing over on me. And I learned it because I failed forward. I ain't going to ask you to touch your neighbor too many more times, but touch your neighbor and say, I've been a success story. I've been prospering. I've been advancing. I've been excelling. you have been evolving, you've been becoming. God has been measuring you and helping you to measure up to his standards, not anybody else's. God has taken you through the process of deliverance. And while he was delivering you out of stuff and situations and circumstances, he was also delivering you from people. He was delivering you from people, and he was delivering you from you. Is there anybody in here besides me who knows what it feels like for God to deliver you from you? You've been your own worst enemy. He's delivered you from you. And so, my brothers and my sisters, as we deal with this whole context, and I'm not going to be before you long. I got another service today, and I got to muster up some energy to do that. So y'all pray for me as we do that. I need for you to understand that according to Romans chapter 8, I love this, Wilburn. According to Romans chapter 8, Paul says that people are waiting on you. He says that the environment or the people to which you have been assigned are waiting for and expecting you to become or to evolve into who God has created you to be. When you look at Joseph's story, here's what you'll find out. That even the brothers who hated him needed for him to become who God had created him to be. They did not see the famine. They did not understand that there was a time that was coming that was going to call for them to have to go to Egypt and to get grain. And so consequently, they did not understand Joseph's dream. Here's the first thing I'd like to say to you. I'm throwing it in for free because it ain't in my notes. You need to quit getting upset with people who don't understand you. You need to stop getting upset with people who don't understand your dream, who don't understand your vision, who don't understand the path that you're on, because it ain't their dream. It ain't their vision. It ain't their path. It is yours and yours alone. Touch your neighbor and say, it's mine and mine alone. So I'm not going to get upset with people who don't see it. I'm not going to get upset with people who don't see me as they ought to see me. I'm not going to get upset with people who don't understand. How should I expect, and why should I expect you to understand something that ain't yours? So they're waiting for you to evolve. Somebody say evolve. In Romans chapter 8, I'm not going to take you back there. You can read it when you get a chance. Around verse number 19, it calls it the earnest expectation. That people have a right and a reason, that they are well within their boundaries, if you will, to expect you to evolve. Many of you have attracted people, watch this, because they have seen the potential of what you could become. It is your potential that God does not hide. It is your potential that God does not conceal. Whoever God has created you to be will come out. Because who God has created you to be is the real you. I wish I had a few witnesses in here. It is your potential that is attractive. People have a reasonable expectation that you would become who God has created you to be. But watch this, Troy. It's simply because you remind them of something that they're not. You remind them and you show them of what it needs to complete their lives. Some of you are so great and so grand in the theme of God that God allows people to see, watch this, your greatness and gravitate towards it. Sometimes they're leeches, but they gravitate towards it. Sometimes they're users, but they gravitate towards it. The next time a leech tries to attach itself to your life, stop complaining about the presence of the leech and say, God, I must be somebody and my potential must be so great that they would try to leech themselves to my life. People are attracted to potential. It is a reasonable expectation. You are what somebody needs. Ooh, am I talking good in here? I said you are what somebody needs. The problem with all of that, my brothers and my sisters, is that evolution happens in stages. Evolution happens in stages. You don't just evolve all at once. You are in a steady process of evolving. We taught this in Bible study. You need to come on Tuesday nights, man. It's powerful. We taught that the life of the believer in Jesus Christ, the follower of Christ, the child of God, ought to be a life of progression. According to 1 Corinthians chapter 2, the Bible says we go from grace to grace. We're moving from grace to grace, from faith to faith, from glory to glory, from strength to strength. I'm evolving on a daily basis, Dad. I'm moving, Dad. I'm changing every day. I'm changing. Paul says, I die daily. I die daily. But he implies that not only do I die daily, but I resurrect daily. A new me is evolving. A new me is emerging. A new me is coming to pass. A new me is showing up. A new me. Somebody ought to just shout, a new me. It's a process. It's a process. Mother, here's what I love about this. Joseph takes 14 years of his life. He's evolving into something that he didn't fully understand. How do you handle it when you don't understand what you're becoming? How do you handle it when you don't understand where you're going? How do you handle it when you know you're going somewhere, but you don't know where somewhere is? How do you handle it when you know that who you are now is not who God has created you to be? And you see these snapshots, you see these pictures, you see these trailers, and you see all this stuff, but you ain't quite there yet. You don't know. Is there anybody in here who really doesn't know where you're on your way to? You just know you're on your way to somewhere different and better than where you are right now. If I'm talking to you, wave at me, say, go ahead and talk. 14 years, Joseph is in the process. Listen to me, Pastor. He's in the process of evolving. But he doesn't understand who he's becoming. He doesn't understand what he's becoming. And I need all of us to understand that people will have a problem with you when you're no longer in the phase of your life that they are comfortable with. When you are evolving, they're going to have a problem with you not being who they can manage. They met you at a particular place, and where they met you is where they want to keep you. Here is the problem, Saret. The problem is this. Watch this, Betty. Here's the problem. The problem is when I'm evolving, I'm going through the process of self-discovery and being discovered at the same time. Y'all miss what I said. I'm finding out who I am, and you finding out who I am, and we finding it out at the same time. It would be okay, God, it would be okay if God just let me find out who I was, introduced me to the new me, and then brought me out and introduced me to you. The problem is I'm discovering me while you're discovering me. And that's the reason you got the problem with me. Because I'm not the me that you're used to. But I'm not the me that I'm used to either. So if you think you're confused, I'm confused. Am I talking to anybody in here besides me? I am being discovered and discovering myself at the same. You're wondering why I don't like what I liked yesterday. I'm wondering why I don't like what I like. I'm almost done. I'm being discovered by you, and I'm being discovered by me. And when I'm in that season, people have a problem with me. When you're in that season, people have a problem with you because you're changing. Changing. Unstoppable change. Unconscious growth. Read Mark chapter 4 sometimes. It'll bless you. It talks about the unconscious growth. A man goes out to sow seed and goes to sleep. And when he wakes up, he sees plants buzzing and blooming and sprouting. And he knows not how it happens. Is there anybody besides me who doesn't know how you got here? You can't pinpoint the moment that you just woke up the you that you are right now. You can't pinpoint the moment that what used to make you cry stopped making you cry. You can't pinpoint the moment that what used to make you worry doesn't make you worry. You can't pinpoint the moment that you got as strong as you are. There was stuff that used to make you crack, break up, break down, lose it. That all of a sudden you just woke up one morning and it didn't have the power that it used to have. God, somebody ought to shout, yes, Lord. When the old seasons, I'm just dropping some nuggets. We're not going to shout today. When the old seasons of evolution are over, God will send seasons of death that will force you out of environments that are not relevant to your new season. Seasons of death. When you're evolving, seasons of death. Cold seasons. Seasons. Mama, I learned this when I was with Mother back in the 70s. Mother would watch the news because she'd plant, tomatoes and all that stuff. And if the news said that a frost was coming, she would take stuff and cover her plants, because she understood that if the plants were not covered and warmed, the frost would kill off everything that was growing. There are some times that God will send seasons of coldness and death to kill off old seasons. There's some times that you've gotten so comfortable on the job, but the job is not where God wants you to stay. So he sends seasons. There are times that you are comfortable in the relationships, and all of a sudden misunderstanding arises. Seasons of death. When you look at Joseph's life, God sends seasons of death. Somebody ought to shout, yes, Lord. You see, Joseph's problems didn't come with his brothers until he was 17. When you read Genesis chapter 37, it says, this is the history of Israel. Joseph is 17 years old and his father gave him a coat. LJ, if you don't remember anything else I've said to you today, son, please remember this, that Joseph's problem didn't come until he was 17, because watch this. His problems came when his daddy gave him a coat and when he started dreaming. See, that's when the seasons of death start happening. When God begins to do some things in your life, and they can no longer manage you in the old season, then those seasons of death have to emerge. Up until he was 17 years old, he was just their baby brother. Y'all gonna catch this in a minute. He was just their baby brother. But as soon as he turned 17 and his daddy gave him the coat and he started talking about his dreams, that's when their attitude changed. Has there anybody in here had a situation where somebody's attitude has changed towards you because you are evolving into who God has created you to be? Because your appetites have changed. Because you don't like what you used to like. Because you don't talk the way you used to talk. Because what used to thrill you doesn't thrill you anymore. Can I talk to anybody here? Because they can't just bring junk to you. You ain't a trash can no more. You ain't even a trash compactor no more. I wish I had a few witnesses in here. Change. His problems didn't start with his brothers until he got the coat and started dreaming. Joseph's problem didn't start with Potiphar until Mrs. Potiphar found out that he had higher standards. Everything was cool in Potiphar's house until Joseph said, my standards are higher. All right. I wish y'all had been here throughout this whole series, because I told everybody, don't be mad at Miss Potiphar. No, you can't be mad at Miss Potiphar, because the truth of the matter is, we try to interpret stuff through Western civilization and Western culture. But in that culture, first of all, women could own slaves as well. And every slave was supposed to do whatever the master asked. So for her to push up on Joseph wasn't out of the ordinary, neither was it illegal. Not to mention that Potiphar is a eunuch. You know what a eunuch is? It's either a man who cannot interact with a woman or a man who does not want to interact with a woman. Uh-oh. So the law said that if you had a slave, that slave was supposed to do. I messed some of y'all up, didn't I? But see, that's the problem with the church. We shout about stuff we don't even know the history of. God have mercy. How can Mrs. Potiphar, she's married? Well, the guy wasn't giving her none. And the law said that she was well within her rights. My job is not to make you feel good. My job is to teach you and give you information that will help you to be well balanced as a believer and a follower of Christ. So the next time a Jehovah's Witness knock on your door with some stuff that ain't right, you'll be able to deal. So you can't be mad at Miss Potiphar. But Joseph said, I have different standards.